Welcome to the channel, everyone. BLN437, and today, finally, that World Series video that I've been talking about for about a month, that I said was going to come out a week ago, then I said it was going to come out 2 weeks ago, is finally out today. For you guys to agree with me or disagree with me. But I can't wait to see whether you guys agree or disagree with me when this video goes up. And for everybody that got to enjoy Thanksgiving, I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving. I hope you guys enjoyed eating a lot of good food and being with your family and just relaxing for a little bit. I mean, everybody needs that day or that weekend to just relax, kind of re-energize yourself and get to the point that you want to get to. And I hope you guys had that during this Thanksgiving weekend. So let's get into this video. And before we actually get into the video, I just wanted to give you guys my reasonings for why I chose these games. For one, I believe that they have an everlasting impact. Two, I think they're some of the greatest games ever played. And three, I think that these games, when you put them up against any game, will stand the test of time. So let's get on to the list. Number 5 on my list is the 1960 Game 7 World Series between the New York Yankees and the Pittsburgh Pirates. Now, this game is one of those games that when you guys look back at it, you guys are going to be like, okay, whatever. The Bill Mazeroski home run, that's obviously the most iconic scene. But how is it one of the best games ever played? Or how is it the best World Series game to ever be played? Well, when you guys look at the box score and if you guys look at the highlights or the game, which I believe the footage is on YouTube, the game was amazing. Both starting pitchers did not pitch well. The Yankees went with Bob Turley, I believe, and the Pittsburgh Pirates went with Vern Law. And both pitchers didn't pitch well. Now, the Pittsburgh Pirates ended up taking the lead. Yankees came back. Pirates took the lead again. The Yankees came back. And then Bill Mazeroski hit the home run. But this game was won with that home run of a score from 10-9. This was an offensive juggernaut game in which both offenses were trading, not the lead, but were literally trading runs back and forth. I mean, it's just incredible. It was incredible. I have gotten to see the game a little bit on YouTube, and when I do look at it, I mean, it's literally one of the greatest games I've ever seen played, to be honest with you guys. It has the offense that we got in this year's World Series that made this year's World Series great. It has it. And if you guys don't believe me, check it out. Look at it. You guys got to look at the game. It stands the test of time. It has such great moments between Bill Mazeroski hitting that home run and Yogi Berra kind of just watching the ball going over the fence, or even hearing about how Mickey Mantle cried after the World Series was over because not only could he not handle losing a World Series, he felt bad, and he felt that he was going to be the reason why Casey Stengel would eventually get fired after that 1960 World Series. So the Yankees have a history of firing managers even if they made the World Series. So for some people complaining about Joe, Casey Stengel got fired for losing Game 7 of the 1960 World Series. They ended up bringing Ralph Hawk, and the Yankees won that World Series the following year, but that's not what's important. What was important is that Game 7, Bill Mazeroski home run, the first person to ever hit a walk-off home run to win a World Series and win a World Series game, until Joe Carter ended up doing it in 1993. Now, the next game on my list, the fourth on my list, 1997 Game 7 between the Cleveland Indians and the Florida Marlins. Now, the Marlins were a wildcard team that got in with Jim Leyland as their manager. Great manager, obviously. And the Cleveland Indians were the powerhouse of the 90s. Now, a lot of people don't remember how great the 19 Indians team were, or how great the 1990 Indian teams were, mainly because they got overshadowed by the Blue Jays, who won 2 in a row during that decade. You had the team of the 90s and the Braves that had Smoltz, Maddox, Glavine, and they won a World Series in 95, I believe it was. And then obviously the Yankees won on that huge run in 96, 98, 99, and then 2000, which kind of capped off how great of a team those Yankee teams were. But this team gets lost in the shuffle. I mean, this team had Manny Ramirez, Jim Thome, Albert Bell, Charles Nagy was a decent pitcher, Earl Hershiser was still a great postseason pitcher in his own right, Jose Mesa was an all-star closer. I mean, these guys just had offense, and they were great. And the Marlins had talent, too. Edgar Renteria, I believe Gary Sheffield was on this team. Al Leiter was a decent major league pitcher. So both teams had talent. And, man, did they show it in this World Series. Both teams traded wins back and forth. The Marlins won game 1, Indians won game 2. The Marlins won game 3, the Indians won game 4. The Marlins won game 5, the Indians won game 6, and the Marlins would end up winning game 7. So that trend of back and forth winning happened in this World Series, and the Marlins won. Now, game 7 is important because I think we all know and we will all remember that scene where Edgar Renteria gets the base hit with the bases loaded, and he has his arms up in the air as he's going to first base in just pure excitement, with Craig Counsell jumping up and down, getting to home plate. And on top of that, the fact that Jose Mesa, who was an all-star closer that year, I believe, blew the lead. Now, both pitchers that pitched in this game were Al Leiter, I believe it was. I believe it was Nagy, or if not, Jared Wright. I think it's actually Jared Wright for the Indians. It was Jared Wright, yeah. And man, did these guys they played a great game. These guys played such a great game. And it was well played. Not a lot of offense early on. Kind of picked up towards the end. Edgar Renteria getting that dramatic hit to win the game. But the fact that Jose Mesa blew it with just 2 outs. I mean, that game, to me, it stands the test of time. And it's a great game. You have great managers, great players that were part of both teams. And it's just one of those games that I think when we go back, we won't forget it. We surely won't forget it. I mean, you had that great moment with Joe Carter in 1993 where he hit that home run off of Mitch Williams, but I don't think it's as big as the Marlins being not only the first wildcard team to win a World Series that year, but being a huge underdog against the Cleveland Indians. I mean, nobody thought that the Cleveland Indians would have lose this World Series to a team that was a wildcard team. They had talent, but it wasn't. It didn't seem like it was completely there yet. It seemed like they were a year away, maybe 2 years away. And lo and behold, those Florida Marlins just grew up right in front of people's eyes, and they ended up winning the World Series. And what a World Series it was. I mean, trading wins back and forth. You can't, to me, you can't script anything better than that. You can't. Now, Game 3. Game 3, I think a lot of people will agree with me, should be on this list. I really do. It is the 1986 World Series. Game 6, the Bill Buckner play. Now, let me give you guys some backstory into what happened before that play was made. So, before that play was made, the Red Sox had a lead going into the 9th inning. Wade Boggs was the third baseman of that game for the Boston Red Sox. And as the Red Sox were getting ready to close this game out, and they were 1 out away, an umpire, I don't remember his name, it is a story, you can search it up online, Wade Boggs has talked about it. An umpire went up to Wade Boggs and said, "Hey, I collect the hats of World Series Hall of Fame third basemen." And Wade Boggs told the umpire, "Dude, this isn't over yet. We still need to get one more out. We still need to, end this game before you can proclaim us to be World Series champions." So not only did that happen, the funny twist is that on the scoreboard out there in Shea Stadium, it said, "Congratulations to the 1986 World Series champion Boston Red Sox." So not only did you have the umpire saying, "Hey, you guys won the World Series," you had people who were working on the Mets, electrical system via the scoreboard and everything, proclaim that the Boston Red Sox were going to win this World Series. And little did they know that something special was going to happen. Something crazy was going to happen. I mean, Bob Costas was ready to interview the players. The champagne was set. But the Mets kept coming up to bat. Each Met hitter saying, "Well, I'm not going to make the last out. I'm not going to make the last out. I'm not going to make the last out," until Mookie Betts gets up with, I believe, the bases loaded. 2 outs. And at this point, he could either end the game and the game was going to be over, or he can tie it or win it. Mookie Betts literally dodges a ball that was going to hit his knees, in my opinion. And that wild pitch tied the game, to which it relaxed Mookie, because at that point, what happens? Nothing. I mean, if you don't get a base hit and you strike out or you ground out, you're going into extra innings. You get a base hit, you're the hero of New York, you win the game. Little did he know, the ground ball he hit right to Bill Buckner would be a play that lives not only in Boston Red Sox lore and just in infamy when it comes to the Boston Red Sox, but it would live in infamy in baseball history. And literally, it happened in a split second. I mean, Mookie Betts hits the ball. Mookie Wilson. I'm sorry, guys. Mookie Wilson hits the ball right to Bill Buckner, and it goes through his legs. But if you watch the video, his glove kind of goes up. Bill Buckner's glove goes up. And you kind of start to see that maybe not only was it probably just the fact that he had some bad knees, but the fact that it just seemed like his glove rose on him. I don't know if it was just a reaction thing or if it was just he thought the ball was coming in a little faster than what it was, but the glove just kind of slipped up a little bit and it went through the glove as well. So not only did it go through his legs, it went through the glove first and then his legs. And some people debate that maybe Mookie Wilson would have beaten him out at first base because he had the bum knees. Bill Buckner at that time it was known that he had bum knees. He didn't have good knees. He had suffered some injuries during the season, and he wasn't playing 100%. So some people didn't believe that Mookie was going to be called out. He was going to beat that out, and they were going to win the game anyways. Many Red Sox fans believe that if that play was made, they would have been World Series champions in 1986. And boy, not only did that game hurt the Red Sox, it completely crushed their confidence. They weren't the same team in Game 7. They ended up losing Game 7. They just didn't have it. And I think a lot of that just came from the fact that they were seconds away. They were a strike away from winning it. They were an out away from sending it to extra innings and seeing what they can do. And they couldn't do it. They couldn't. And they ended up losing that game. And they ended up losing the World Series. And the reason why that's so special is because Bill Buckner, from 1986 to 2004, was scrutinized for that play. 18 years. Bill Buckner had to live with the fact that he was the reason the Red Sox hadn't won a World Series since, I believe, had to be 1912, 1916. And boy, did that hurt. That hurt for Bill Buckner and his family, who received death threats, but it hurt for a man who had pretty much taken them to the World Series with his performance. I mean, if you guys look at his stats, he had a great offensive year for the Boston Red Sox in 1986, and it's such a shame that he got so much hatred for that play. But that's the game of baseball, and people look for a scapegoat, whether it's the manager, the player, whoever. The next on my list, Game 7 of the 2001 World Series. I was alive for this one, and boy, could I tell you, I couldn't tell you guys the energy that was going on here in New York. Obviously, revealing from the events of 9/11. Bush throwing out the first pitch at Yankee Stadium in Game 3. The comebacks that the Yankees went on from Games 3, 4, and 5 to get it to Game 6 and 7 in Arizona were just amazing. I mean, the games leading up to this Game 7 was amazing. Randy Johnson having a brilliant game in Game 6. Curt Schilling pitching well enough in Game 7. But Randy Johnson coming out of the bullpen on 1 day's rest to help his team is probably one of the biggest moments of that World Series. On top of the Luis Gonzalez base hit to help them win the World Series. I mean, hell, even Mariano Rivera, the great Mariano Rivera, made a hiccup. He could not close that game. He overthrew the ball or misthrew the ball for the double play, and that was it. The Yankees lost that World Series. But when you look at that World Series, big unit coming in is a big moment in that game. It changed the momentum of that game, to be honest with you. Along with that play by Mo, that changed the momentum. And I think it changed the momentum because the Yankees at that point did not hit Johnson in that series. They didn't. They didn't hit Johnson, and they really didn't hit Schilling. Alfonso Toriano did hit a home run in the 8th, but at that point, when you saw Randy Johnson coming in to the game as a Yankee fan, you felt it was over. You felt that just something crazy, something magical was going to happen. And it did, especially with Luis Gonzalez up to the bat, being the World Series hero and just doing what he did. It was special. It's one of those special games. It's one of those special series, man. When you look back at the 2001 World Series, I know a lot of people probably don't look at it as much as the next game that I'm going to mention, but man, were those games great, and was this Game 7 great? I mean, you're never going to see a guy come out of the pen on 1 day's rest like the big unit did to literally propel his team to a victory by keeping the score at what it was, which was 1 run, and just motivating them with that kind of just grit that he gave them. And I mean, the guy was, I believe the guy was 39 years old, maybe even 40, and you have him going out there, and he's just, he's just going out there like if it's nothing on one day's rest, and just being like, yeah, you know what, I'm gonna go out here and I'm gonna help this team win a World Series, and if you guys are, if you guys are ready for me, then come bring it, and that's what the big unit did, and it's special, and it's always gonna hold, it's always gonna, to me, that game is always gonna be near and dear to my heart, and I believe that it would be to a lot of people. So next and last, but before we get into that, let's give you guys some honorable mentions here. Game 6 of the 2011 World Series, Texas Rangers being a strike away twice. I mean, that's drama in itself. 1991 World Series between John Smoltz, Jack Morris. That epic pitching duel in which Jack Morris goes 10 innings strong and they win the game 1-0. Those are two games that I really wanted on this list. I really, really wanted to find some space for them. If I was doing a top 10, they would be in my top 10. But as a top 5, they just barely missed, man. Just barely missed. Really. And this game, to me, this game that is number 1, I think tops those two, mainly because we'll be talking about a lot of what happened in that game. To me, if you're a true baseball fan, you are, for many years to come still. And that is the 1975 World Series Game 6. The Carlton Fisk home run game, in which he kind of is, saying to the ball, stay fair, just kind of moving his hands, hoping that it stays fair, making it stay fair, kind of just doing everything he can to make sure that ball was fair. That right there is one of the most iconic, one of the most memorable scenes you'll ever see. But before we even got to that, Bernie Carbo had to tie the game up with one of the greatest swings you'll ever see in baseball history after making one of the worst swings in baseball history. I mean, literally, he made one of the most ugliest swings you'll ever see. And then on the very next pitch, he hits a ball as great as you can hit it. Literally, the best as you can hit it. And it's one of those iconic scenes, man, where you're just like, how did that happen? How? And it's just such a great game. That World Series had a Super Bowl feel because of what happened. And what happened is that they had a rain delay that I believe delayed the World Series for 3 days. And Pete Rose said that that atmosphere was of a Super Bowl. And it just, everybody was excited. Everybody was just wanted baseball to be back just to see what was going to happen with these two monster teams. Carlton Fisk, Fred Lynn. Jim Rice wasn't on the team yet at that point, but I believe Yastrzemski was. I mean, you had Concepcion, Morgan, Rose, Griffey Sr., Foster on the Reds, and Bench. All great players playing in this World Series, and they're just playing this game the right way, hard. I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna do my job type of deal, and it came off great, man. Though the Reds lost this game, it didn't hurt their confidence. That's how great that Red team was. It didn't hurt their confidence enough for them to win Game 7 and end up winning another World Series in '76 where they swept the Yankees, and that was kind of the end of the Big Red Machine era. But man, this game 6 just had everything from decent pitching to just great late offensive drama, from Bernie Carbo tying the game up after just having an ugly swing to having one of the greatest swings of all time, to to Fisk literally telling that ball to stay fair, and it's one of the greatest games of all time. I mean, you guys can watch it online, you guys can see it for yourself. It has great, the broadcasters were great in that game as of '86. I mean, Vince Scully calling that play after the ball went through, Buckner. It's like, and the ball went through Buckner, and here comes Snyder, and the Mets win it. I mean, Vince Scully just has a great call for that game, and Curt Gowdy did such a great job calling this game in 1975. I believe it was Gowdy. It had to be Gowdy, and I want to say it was Gowdy and Keith Jackson. Maybe it was actually Keith Jackson and Bill White. I don't know. But the people that called the game were great, man. It just added to that drama. And that's why, to me, this game is so great. I mean, not only did you get the Fisk homer, you got the Carbo, game-tying home run, but you got the Reds team that was playing a great game up to that point. They had the lead. They were doing their thing. It seemed like it was a foregone conclusion that the Reds were going to run away with this game and win the World Series in that game. And it just didn't happen, man. It was just a great game, and The Red Sox just had that never die, always going to fight mentality that the Yankees had during the championship series this year, that the Marlins had in 97, that other teams have had, the Cardinals in 2011, and they just had that grit, that fight in them. The Red Sox were not going to give in. The Red Sox were not going to give up. In order to beat the Red Sox, you were going to have to actually beat the Red Sox. You had to give them everything that they just couldn't handle. And the Reds did, and they still lost that game. So that just goes to show you how great that game is. And you just look at the Hall of Famers down the batting order. I mean, there's just so many great Hall of Fame players, and even if they're not Hall of Fame players, decent borderline Hall of Fame players, from Concepcion to Foster to Ken Griffey Sr., who's a great player, to Fred Lynn. I mean, you just look at the list of talent on those teams, and you're sitting here and you're saying to yourself, that deserves to, those guys deserve to be called, or deserve the right to say that they played the greatest World Series game of all time. So that's my list, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what your guys' list is. Do you guys agree with my list? Disagree? And if you guys do, let me know, like I said. So comment, subscribe if you are new, like this video, share this video with all of your friends. I want as many people to see this video because I want people to either agree with me or disagree with me. And the podcast between me and NK Gaming should be back sometime this week. I got to contact him, make sure that we have a date set. A lot of things happen with Thanksgiving coming around and people wanting to do Black Friday shopping, so I understand that. I don't want to interfere in anybody's lives, vice versa with him. And hopefully we can get the podcast going once again. We should be able to. I'm hoping for Wednesday. No promises. We'll see what happens. But I do have another video coming out tomorrow, and that's going to be kind of just a little bit of what's going on with the off season. Maybe we'll do a little top 5 in that video as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one later.